of some automobile driving problems. I've never actually run into anybody else that remembers seeing this. I remember some of the news footage they ran on local television right after it happened, as they were leading him away. And like the announcer was talking over this, but I swear I heard him say to the policeman that was leading him away, "Well, the people should have gotten out of the way."
I don't think he was fully present.
Yeah, I suspect that there was at least some dementia, maybe some severe sensory problems, God knows what else. And I thought, a discussion at that level, I think, would have been much more interesting and would have contributed more to public safety. And I suppose on one level, it's kind of a nice thing that it wasn't, let's have a maximum driving age of 75 or something. That'll fix the problem, which is a bad policy.
I just feel like if there are other options for people, like public transportation, then maybe, because just not being able to get around, not having your freedom taken away.
It's hard in California with public transit. Like if you can walk a significant amount of distance, it's fine. Like if you can walk a mile, but a lot of seniors can comfortably walk a mile and then go do something.
Obviously, that's a problem. And are you willing to tolerate people getting killed in order to support that level of independence?
No.
We need to change public transit.
That's I mean, one of the things that, you could think about, and we can think about in more detail, probably most of us, of course, and specifically on this issue in the next couple of sessions, is there would, all of these things would cost something. There could be more specific kinds of screening that we could do that would at least lower the likelihood of things like this happening. But we've got some requirements for dementia screening already. It's sort of kind of work sometimes. There probably are, it would make some sense to police test in different ways vision and hearing abilities beyond an age when they become quite common. It's actually sort of interesting, some of the resistances that you give as these things occur. Doctors do not want to report this stuff to the DMV for all kinds of reasons. DMV testers all have grandmothers. When we first got the dementia reporting thing passed in California, one of the problems that families started running into is you could get the person with dementia called in for a behind-the-wheel driving test. They could screw it up badly, and the tester would pass them because they like old people. Reminded me of my grandmother. I couldn't stand it. People really said this. I'm not just making this crap up. Because it reminded me of my grandmother. I couldn't fail this sweet old lady on the driving test, even though, she made many mistakes in the driving test. So you're in a lot of issues with this stuff. And I think it's an interesting place for gerontologists to be, because we get into this thing because we like old people, and in general you want to do things to make the world a better place for old people, but you also want to think carefully about what that means, and also whether there are public safety concerns that occasionally outweigh this. Do you want to defend the right of elderly pilots with visual and hearing impairments and certainly dementia to fly?
I don't think so.
I'll tell you this little thing and then I'll take a break. But I literally, back in my community mental health days, we did an assessment on this guy in his home, and the family was there. And he was seriously visually, this wasn't what I call his assessment, he was already clearly well known to the family, but seriously visually impaired. We were able to communicate with him enough to do the cognitive impairment screening, but it took some work. We had to get close to his good ear. So there was significant hearing impairment. And as it turned out, he was also at least moderately cognitively impaired. So we talked to the family about the dementia and stuff with him there. So we're walking out to our car and go back to the office, and a couple of family members come running down the driveway. Oh, one more question. Should we let him drive? Should we continue to let him drive? It's probably one of the most spontaneous responses anybody ever got. We were both like, at the same time, you let him drive. It's blind, he's deaf, and he probably, and they admitted, as we talked about this, he had had trouble finding his way back home again from places. Take the keys now. Let's take about a 10-minute break. We'll come back about 10 after and pick up on a few minutes.
I mean, it really sucks for her, but
The comments you got.
You guys don't feel crowded and stuff, that's great. Okay, hearing changes.
More good news, right?
Yeah. What I've been having an interesting time with for the last few years. Pure tone changes, which is what a lot of the literature is about. This is actually sort of an interesting fact in itself, because we study pure tones because it's what people do, and it's also like the kind of testing you get when you go into audiology, is they test your hearing with pure tones. You hear this one. Probably what we really want to know is, can you hear speech? Right? Speech is not pure tone perception. They're not unrelated, but they're also not at all the same thing either in terms of the physical characteristics of speech, or what some of the issues are and how it changes and when it changes and what problems are. But anyway, the classic picture in pure tone has been declines in hearing ability after